Join me on a cross-country course walk. I am doing 0.75, which is pre-entry. We've just come out of the start box. You're given a 30-second warning, and then they'll count down from 10, and then you may leave. And they usually say, have a good ride. Here is jump 1. Our first jump on course is always going to be something a little more basic, something that the horses can kind of feel confident to trot or canter to. Phantom is a young horse. She's super green. This is her first ever show. However, we have schooled this course once, so she has seen things, and she was so confident. So that gives me the confidence that we could probably come out of that start box and go right to the canter. And I know that if I line her up straight, and then her and I have a little system where once I'm lined up to the jump, I just do a little really quiet one, and then her ears go, okay, that one. And then my job is I grab my neck strap, I kind of just lean, put my butt to the back, put my feet forward, chin up, and then just wait for her to decide when to jump. Leg on. Okay, so jump 1 is under height. It's a very easy first jump. Jump 2, we're going uphill to a basic ramp. This course is starting on quite the uphill. We come out of the start box, jump 1 is uphill, jump 2 is uphill, and then after jump 2, we have a very steep uphill where we're gonna go up, and then it's gonna flatten out. We'll take a right-hand turn, and we're gonna go through some narrow trees. So we have quite a bit of uphill and a lot of terrain between jump 2 and 3, because 3 is way up on the top of the hill. So this could have pros and cons based on the type of horse you're riding. If you're on a horse that feels fresh, really go-y, really strong, this is gonna help you kind of get jump 2 and 3 going, and then like get a little bit of gas out of the tank, so they might be a little more rideable once you get up to the top and do the rest of your course. If you have a horse that's a little more sticky, the hill is probably not going to be your advantage, because you're going to have to be really convincing the horse to keep the forward momentum. Okay. I know Phantom will be tired tomorrow, as we've had a whole week of training. So I might have to, encourage her a little bit to keep moving up this steep hill. But I think for the most part, she'll be keen enough that she'll take me up the hill. I'll just grab onto the mane and go. If you take a look, it's quite a steep hill. And if you notice there, that's a down drop for the higher level pre-training. And so you come cantering, you feel like you're jumping off the edge of the world, and then you land on a very steep slope. So you really got to sit up. A lot of horses go flying down this hill and maybe bucking a little bit. I've always enjoyed that drop, and hopefully one day Phantom and I will be doing it. But that kind of stuff is not at our level. Our level is meant to be for green riders or green horses, and it's a lot more inviting than this. Let's just pop over here and take a little look at what this looks like from on top. So again, this is not on my course. You can see, you just feel like you're just gonna launch off to the edge of the world. And you kind of do. That's handy. Yeah, no kidding. This is our turn into the tree track. It's going to feel very dark and very claustrophobic. As we're entering, you're going to sit up. Again, if your horse is a little bit green or you haven't done a lot of things like this, I would just trot through here, because of the possibility of things for them to look at. And there's also a few little footing hazards. They've been spray painted. The logs to watch out for. So those might draw your horse's eye. So not a bad idea. When in doubt, trot it out. As we come out of this tree tunnel, there's quite the turn. It's nearly a 90-degree turn to the next jump. So again, not going too fast will be very important. So it's going to be either a collected canter or a trot. So here's our sharp right turn. It's narrow, it's a raised road, there's culverts on both sides. So we're gonna be really careful coming out of here that our horse can navigate that well. And then up ahead, we have jump 3. We just call that a gnarly log. Good sized log. And now, again, we're jumping and we're making a turn. And there's quite a few rocks up here. So Phantom and I are probably gonna be able to canter that turn, but I'm gonna keep the canter a little more collected through that narrow trees, through that turn, over this jump, because we've got a little bit of terrain to navigate here with the narrowness of the path, some rocks on each side. And then we're gonna follow this little bit of a deer trail. Now this is going to be tricky, because my jump 4 is on the other side of the water, and there's a starter jump 4 right here, which is going to be very tempting for my horse to take. So at this point, I need to decide if I either go between the 2 jumps, although maybe could be confusing for her, or I go around on this side. And I'm not loving going around this way, because of the hazard of that board. That's going to be a little bit spooky, probably getting her looking at that. The alternative option would be to go out here, but upon inspection, there's a lot of rough ground and there's a lot of rocks sticking out. I'm not gonna stay on this little path. I'm actually gonna go wide, and then I'm gonna ride
on the right side of the red jump there through the bumpy terrain. I'll just have to slow down to trot. I think that's gonna be the best line.
I've worn my sandals. You don't have to follow me through. I'll show you the line. So this is where we're gonna go. Woo! I've got a little bit of a time. I've got maybe about 5 canter strides before I get to jump 4. And it's gonna be really important for me coming out of the water, because water always slows your horse down. Coming out of the water is, come on, maintain that impulsion. Maybe I try to pick up my canter again if I lost it. And then get her dead straight, locked on number 4. We have 4 bending to 5. 5 is the spookiest jump on course right now, because it's quite a dark log. Then it's got a piece on top, which is a little bit tricky for them to see. And it's got some blue fill in front. And blue is a color horses can see, so it probably appears a little more bright. 5 is also an option, because we can either jump the log or jump the ditch. So it's a curving line. I'm gonna land. I'm gonna try to ride a little more this way so that I can turn and then have her present this fence to her from back here where she can easily see it and digest it. So if I were to cut the line, it would give her a lot less time to process, and then you're more likely to maybe have a stop. I'm choosing to jump the jump rather than do the ditch, because we are not confirmed on ditches. We don't have ditches at home to practice, so we only have practiced them 3 times. For some people, that might be the better option. Okay, so this is pretty close to height, I'm sure. And you can see that fill on the bottom is a little bit bright in their eyes, and it does draw them down with the dark log and the contrast. So this one is a little bit spooky. So this is the one that I'm gonna have to, okay. Number 6 is our up bank. And this turn comes up quick, because especially if your horse starts to kind of lean, before you know it, you're at the up bank. So again, I want to ride out this way a little more so that I can turn and present the bank to her. So again, she has lots of time to think, because you could easily land from that number 5 and then ride a more gradual line. It would save you time if your horse is a little more educated, and you could jump this a little more on a curve. But for her level of training, I want her to come to every jump straight and to see it. Now from 6, I'm curving over to 7. So again, watching this downhill is going to lengthen the canter, So pretty straightforward log. Again, just making sure I've got her focus on it back there and she's not looking at maybe, I think the jump judges might be sitting over there, and that can sometimes like make a horse look twice. So having her focus on it and then not coming too fast, because we have to make a left-hand turn and go through that open piece of fence there. And then it's actually quite a sharp turn and we're rolling back and jumping a jump directly across from where this jump is right now, the closest one to us there. So let's walk this line. Coming through this gate, I'm gonna make sure that we're slow, and also there's quite a few rocks here. There's some dips in the terrain, and then it kind of goes down into a gully. So you can see it kind of goes down into a gully and back up again. And this is a very important part of the course walk, is looking at your terrain and assessing where you're gonna ride, that your horse is gonna have the most balance. They're not going to slip, they're not gonna get too fast, they're not gonna trip. And maybe sometimes that means you have to change your pace according to the terrain, because that's part of eventing. It's not just the jumps and getting from one to the other, it's riding in between and the footing and the natural terrain that exists. I don't think I wanna go too much into the shrubbery, but I think here's probably a good line, because jump 8 actually jumps a little bit that way, and I don't want to come too soon and jump it that way. So the jump 8 is jumping more that way. And here we have jump 9 with the mountains. That also could be a little bit of a spooky jump because of the white little triangles on there. That's going to draw the horse's eye. So again, I want to ride this turn, so I present it to her 3 or 4 strides straight. I'm thinking I would be able to canter this turn. I'm going to try to canter, I think, this whole course. I think she's ready for that. We have practiced it once in rally, and I was really cautious. I did a lot of trotting. I trotted through the water, through the trees. I trotted this turn, and I think now, and she was good about it, I think it's now time to see if we can canter the full course. So we're going to ride this turn, and I'm going to, instead of right away trying to go to the mountains jump, I'm going to hold her over on the left rein a bit. Of course, being aware that I don't make her feel like I'm riding her into the fence, but that I'm just kind of snugging up to the fence. And then if I could be straight from here, you can see now I have another 5 strides to have her take a look at it. Whereas if I were to ride that line a little more direct, it might be okay, but then I'll be jumping on a slice, which is tricky for a green horse. So if I jump it kind of on this angle, I'm telling her to land to this side of the jump, and then we're going into the forest on another trail ride. Coming down this trail, again, it's going to be dark. Your horse is going to be a little bit like looking. And because we're going through the woods, I would be sitting up in a really steady, ready position, because you never know if a prairie chicken flies out or a squirrel kind of rustles the grass, and we're on a narrow trail in the bush. So I'm not going to be, in the 2-point kind of over the front of the horse. I'm going to be off her back for sure, because it's a long stretch with no jumps. So I don't need to be sitting down, but I'm going to be having my foot in front of me and having my weight more to the back of the saddle, so that if anything jumps out, I'm secure. We're now on a downhill here. We're getting close to the end of the trail, and then it's going to make a sharp right-hand turn out into the field. And we have rocks and stuff to slip on. So here, I'll let her canter, but I'm going to start to kind of reel it in. And if it ends up that I just trot out the turn, that's okay. Here comes our turn. So again, I'm gonna sit up. I'm noting there are some rocks on the path. So I'm gonna just swing over here a little bit and really, I'm gonna really sit up here, leg on to say, I want you to go forward, but I wanna be in a very stable position because as she comes out here, you never know what's gonna catch your horse's eye. And then they might kind of, ooh, there's people over there, or there's something, or there's a horse, or whatever it might be. So kind of sitting up, letting her kind of come into this field and survey everything. And then I'd say probably as I'm passing this jump, I would say she will have assessed. And then I can kind of go, okay, now let's move up again. And then we're going to get in line with my 10 and 11. So 10 is a small log. It's under height. And then 11 is quite a large, a mini table on top of a hill. So 11 is a big jump. So this guy is no big problem. I don't want to be coming too fast though, because that jump is quite small. I definitely don't want to be like galloping. And I think that's probably part of the course designer's thought is this is almost acting as a speed bump to set you back. So you're thinking and ready for jump 11. Let's just like sidebar. These are jumps I used to jump. How sweet is this? How big is this? This is huge. Look at, it's massive, massive. Someday, maybe, I don't know. Do you think Phantom can do it? I don't know, we'll see. All right. Now it's game on. And the horse can see through this jump, which sometimes can also be distracting for the horse because things are moving behind it. Now, somewhere around here, I'm really gonna lift my chin up. I'm gonna look to 12, which is down the hill now, and come on, lots of leg, and wait for them to take off because they might take like an extra little look and then jump. And my job is just to keep the hind legs going without restricting, soft hands. So let's just come take a little look at this table so that you can see it's got some width and it's a bigger height. So this has some oomph to it. This is a jump. This is a jump. You can see it's sizable. So this is definitely to height and got paying attention for a jump like this. 12 again, another easy log downhill. We're getting close to the end of the course and now we're cantering in the direction of home and our horses might be starting to get really strung out and flat. So it's really important to reorganize, balance them back on the hind, even though it's a small log. Well, actually, especially because it's a small log, because you don't want to jump flat on something small. And then we're going to be making a left-hand turn to jump 13 right after. So again, we don't want to be rushing because we want to have the control on the landing side. So 13 is quite the hook to the left. Now you can see from this perspective that it also is downhill and 13 is now shooting us away from home because 14 and 15 are over there. So there's going to be a couple problems that are going to come up with jump 13. We're going to have the downhill, again, drawing the horse more to the forehand, more here, which is not the shape we want them jumping in. We want them more here, ears up like that. So we've got that problem. And then because home is that way, as you're turning the corner, the horse is probably going to be pushing through their right shoulder and drifting and making it hard for you to get around that turn. So like it's going to be the rider's responsibility to land, use this little bit of uphill to bring them back. And then on that downhill, we're going to be controlling that outside shoulder and not letting it leak. From here, to point out a little bit of how course design works, as we move up the levels, clearly we make it more difficult for the horse and the rider. Now, my jump is in the middle, so a medium track. The starter jump is the wider turn. It's an easier turn and actually have the jump more on a perpendicular angle so that the kids can just turn the corner and then ride to the trees. Whereas my jump and then the pre-training jump there are a little bit this way, so we're jumping a little more that way. So it causes us to have to make like a sharper turn, which is more advanced, and it's more of a test for the rider. And then of course the pre-training is on the inside of the turn, which again is a harder turn. in the practice, I blew through this turn, like she just kept continuing sideways to the right. And I actually, in the end, kind of ended up side passing and then had to go with my stick to straighten her out. And then we ended up trotting 14 just because we were so crooked. So over this jump, what I'm gonna do this time is I'm really gonna turn my head and maybe just do a leading left rein to help her land and think that trajectory and ideally land on the left lead. So we've got lots of time for this turn. We don't have to ride like a super square turn like we've been doing for some of the other jumps that are closer together. Since we have so much time, we definitely could ride more of an inside gradual bending turn and maybe even ending up, let's say, straight to the fence about here. And that would be plenty to get her locked onto that. So I'm gonna land and I'm gonna try to ride more of an inside turn, but it's such a long line, I think that will ride better than her blowing too wide and we end up over in the trees. And this log must be to height because that's definitely a bigger log and it's pretty close to the cute little pre-training rabbit jump. And then we have jump 15, the last jump and the finish line. So yay. Yay, yay, yay. We're gonna let her gallop a little bit here, and then about the halfway point is when I'm gonna sit up, put the canter together, and again, get her looking at jump 15. So we have her package, my eye is up, I'm gonna be looking at the far jumps over there, and woohoo, boom, last jump on course. Also, how cute are the gnomes? Then land and yeah, party! Sweet.